The meeting of May 13, 2026 of the Housing Code Advisory and Appeals Board will now come to order. The board consists of 5 members who are not employees of the city. The board is an impartial decision maker. The board is appointed by the mayor with approval of the city council. Your board members are myself, Brandon Fisher, chair. We also have Ms. Taylor, vice chair, Mr. Antablian, Mr. Boyd, and Ms. Bunting. We also have Leah Billings, secretary to the board, Peter Lemos, code and housing enforcement chief, Daniel Lothar, principal building inspector, and David Kim, counsel to the board. I'll now ask the secretary to call the roll.
Fisher?
Yes?
Taylor?
Present.
Antablian?
Here.
Boyd? Bunting? Here. Thank you.
Please rise for the opening acknowledgments in honor of Sacramento's indigenous people and tribal lands. To the original people of this land, the Nisenan people, the Southern Maidu, Valley and Plains Miwok, Patwin Winton peoples, and the people of the Wilton Rancheria, Sacramento's only federally recognized tribe. May we acknowledge and honor the Native people who came before us and still walk beside us today on these ancestral lands by choosing to gather today in the active practice of acknowledgement and appreciation for Sacramento's indigenous people's history, contributions, and lives. Thank you. Let us now turn our attentions for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. All right. I would like to now explain the reason for this hearing. For item 2, we are here to determine whether the owners of the buildings and structures in the cases before us this evening have violated the provisions of Chapter 8.96 or Chapter 8.100 of the Sacramento City Code. The question here is, was the property in violation of the City Code at the time the notice and order was issued, and was the notice and order properly issued? If it is shown by a preponderance of the evidence that an owner has violated the Dangerous Buildings Code or the Housing Code, then this board will issue a written decision ordering the owner to correct the dangerous or substandard conditions or demolish the building within a reasonable time. The board's decision will direct the time within which the work must be started and when the work must be completed. If the owner decides to do the work required and the work is progressing in a reasonable manner, the city inspector may grant an extension of time not to exceed an additional 120 days to complete the project. However, if the owner fails to comply with the terms of the decision, then the city may repair, secure, or demolish the building or structure, and the costs incurred for this work may be made a personal obligation of the property owner and either a nuisance abatement lien or a special assessment against the property. You will hear our decision today and receive formal notification of our decision in the mail. For items 3 through 10, we are here to consider the expenses incurred by the city in the notice and order and the repair, demolition, or securing of any building or structure done in the housing and dangerous buildings cases before us, together with any protests or objections. The question here is, are the fees, costs, or other amounts claimed by the city reasonable and justified? This board may revise, correct, or modify the proposed charges as we deem just. Once this board is satisfied with the correctness of the charges, we shall then make a decision confirming or rejecting the charges. Any written protests and related information received have been forwarded to us for consideration in our decision. You will hear our decision today and receive formal notification of our decision in the mail. Our decision will be forwarded to the City Council for determination whether this hearing was conducted in accordance with the City Code. All right. So I think now we go to the agenda. There's a whole page missing. There it is. All right, let us now turn our attention to the agenda. Item number 1, approval of the minutes for March 11th, 2026.
I move to approve the minutes.
I second.
Fisher,
Yes?
Taylor,
Yes.
Antablian,
Yes.
Bunting. Thank you.
Each item will be called in order of those requesting to speak unless staff or board members request otherwise. The owner representative should state their name and address and explain the nature of their appeal. Please be concise. The staff will identify themselves and provide a summary of the case, including the recommendation of which the owner can respond. As we begin to call these, the secretary will swear in appellants and city staff prior to each case. All right, item number 2. Case Inspector Paul Lovato, address 4124 T Street. Appellant is Amy Casovny. I hope I said that correctly. Attorney for the property owner, thank you. And also Elizabeth Tenborg and Oscar Vasquez. Please come forward, and the secretary will swear you in.
I can have all parties for item number 2 for the property located at 4124 T Street. Please raise your right hand and answer the following question. Do you solemnly swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony and evidence that you give at this hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lovato.
Okay, this is agenda item number 2. The case number is 25-041319. Property owner shows Oscar Vasquez and Elizabeth Tenborg. Property address is 4124 T Street, Sacramento, California, 95819. Parcel number 011-011-30-11-0000. Today's May 13th, 2026. My name is Paul Lovato, building inspector with the Housing and Dangerous Buildings. This is a notice and order appeal. The case opened on October 27th, 2025. Current case status is open. The protest is summary action and/or fees will not be heard today. This appeal is limited to the notice and order to pay costs and penalties only. An initial inspection was performed on October 30th, 2025 by Building Inspector Paul Lovato. Inspection identified the property was in violation of Sacramento City Codes 8100.230, overcrowding a room, 8100.510, ventilation and elimination, 8100.430, room and space dimensions, 8100.570 for floor supports, 8100.190 for permits are required. The background on this is on October 30th, 2025, I arrived on site at 9 a.m. and I met with the tenant of the property. The tenant stated the owner of the property is renting him a room that used to be an attic. I asked if I could see his room and he led me to the center of the property, and it shows a hole has been cut in the ceiling and a spiral staircase has been installed. We went up the stairs and it showed the attic has been turned into an extra bedroom with a bathroom. I took pictures of the room and the stairs for the case documents. The tenant then stated there are different people renting different rooms. I asked him how many people reside in the dwelling, and he stated there is 4 people who live in the dwelling. I then went back to my truck, looked the property up in our system, and it shows they are not properly signed up with our rental inspection program. A preliminary letter was requested. On December 1st, 2025 at 9:31 a.m., I arrived at the single-family residence to take photos, update the case files, and due to lack of contact from the owner and failure to obtain the Housing and Dangerous Buildings permit, I issued the notice and order. I also ordered a cloud be placed on the title and a title report done. The notice of the Les Pendants cloud was properly recorded at the Sacramento County Assessor's Office on February 5th, 2026. The property owner was not contacted prior to issuing the notice and order. The preliminary letter was sent on October 30th, 2025. The notice and order was sent to the property owner's address listed on the county assessor's records, Vasquez Oscar, Elizabeth Tenborg at 4124 T Street, Sacramento, California, 95819. It was effectively served on December 4th, 2025 by Process Service. The appellant has received the information being presented this evening. Staff recommends that the board adopts a decision finding the property owner has violated the provisions of Chapter 8.96 and/or 8100 of the Sacramento City Code, ordering the property owner to obtain a permit to correct the dangerous conditions or demolish the structure within 30 days of the date of this decision, and ordering that if the property owner fails, refuses, or neglects to correct the dangerous conditions or demolish the structure within the time set forth in this decision, that the City of Sacramento may repair, demolish, or secure the structure or institute an action to compel compliance with this order for the property known as 4124 T Street, Sacramento, California, 95819, with a parcel number of 011-011-30-11-0000. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your appeal.
Good evening, members of the Sacramento Appeals Board. Thank you for the important work that you do and for the opportunity to present the information to you this evening regarding 4124 T Street. My name is Amy Chaffin-Kasuni, and I represent owners Elizabeth Tenborg and Oscar Vasquez. In the interest of time, this will confirm that the letter and exhibits previously submitted April 22nd on their behalf is part of the record tonight. Unfortunately, I call this my no good deed goes unpunished case because my clients have really been wronged here. My clients have served our community through active wartime military service, frontline healthcare service, and are currently working on the cure for cancer as a UCD-trained physician and veterinarian. When they learned that Dr. Vasquez's sister and mother both had contracted cancer, they purchased 4124 T Street in January 2025. They've done no improvements to the home other than flooring replacement. The plan was that the property would be a home base for cancer treatment at the nearby UC Davis Medical Center, a home away from home as their sister and mother would be arriving from Puerto Rico for treatment. As the owners waited for the move to transpire, they became aware that Dr. Vasquez's 4 other family members needed a place to live during a search for employment. My clients offered their entire property to all 4 family members as a place of respite during the job search. The initial lease was executed in February 2025 at Exhibit B. Shortly after lease execution, the 4 family members experienced financial distress. A proposed rent reduction was offered to the tenants, but instead of executing the new lease, one of the family members reported the home to the City of Sacramento. The same alleged, and we contend incorrect, code violations set forth in the inspector's report were used as the basis for a small claims action against my clients. For the following reasons, all corrections and financial penalties and cloud on title cannot be justified and must be lifted from the property at 4124 T Street. First, lack of proper notice. Service of a notice and order must comply with Sacramento City Code 1.04-100. The code permits service only by 1, personal service, 2, posting, plus simultaneous certified mail and first-class mail, or by publication if neither of those can be transpired. None of those requirements were satisfied here. The inspector's report asserts that the owners were personally served December 4th, 2025. That assertion is unsupported. The owners were not personally served, as confirmed by sworn affidavit in Exhibit F, and they're here to confirm that tonight as well. Nor did the city produce any proof of personal service in response to Public Records Act requests, see Exhibit G. nor was service by mail properly effectuated. Although a notice was eventually posted on the property, the code requires that posting be accompanied by simultaneous service by both certified and first-class mail. The record establishes that mailed notices were not successfully delivered. City records reflect multiple mailings on October 31st, December 2nd, January 6th, and February 6th, yet 8 letters were returned as not deliverable as addressed, unable to forward. See Exhibits G and H. Certified mail was likewise ineffective, marked as signature unknown. Also see G and H. Because the certified mailings were returned with unknown signatures and the first-class mailings were returned undeliverable, service was never completed under the plain terms of Sacramento Code. Importantly, the owners, for the very first time, became aware of any code enforcement issues when a neighbor informed them of the posting of the notice and order at 4124 T Street on January 1st, 2026, well after the purported December service date. The taking of private property rights without notice violates due process under the Constitution, and it also violates Sacramento Municipal Code. Another issue is the lack of the 30-day period to correct. Sacramento City Code 15.04.060 mandates a 30-day period to cure or correct violations after service of notice. The owners were also never afforded this 30-day opportunity. By the time my clients were aware of any code enforcement issues, the only option they had was to appeal the notice and order that same day. More specifically, because they had not received any preliminary notices prior to the notice and order, their only responsive option was an appeal. The problem here is that the matter had already escalated to notice and order as of January 1st, 2026, and without being informed by the inspector that they were entitled to that 30-day period, and without even a phone call, their title was clouded on February 5th, 2026. Accordingly, the administrative penalties and cloud on title are invalid and must be vacated. Failure to do so is a constitutional violation and also a violation of Sacramento Municipal Code. But just for sake of the argument, ignoring the ineffective notice and ineffective 30-day period subsequent to learning of the code concerns, the owners were never afforded even any reasonable opportunity to discuss the inspector's concerns. I phoned the inspector on April 8th to discuss his concerns. He was informed that there had been some misunderstandings. The information provided him was given by a former tenant with an ulterior motive, namely free rent and court-awarded money damages. Unfortunately, the inspector appears to have believed the former tenant's incorrect assertions. On the April 8th call, the inspector indicated that the second floor joists are only 2x4s. They're not, see Exhibit T, they're 2x8s. He was only willing to expunge the cloud on title if the owners were only willing to demolish their home's entire second floor. This was unreasonable and based on incorrect data. Given this misunderstandings, my clients were never afforded a 30-day period with meaningful opportunity to address the inspector's concern given the ultimatum. Another final but important point is that 4124 T Street is a home over 100 years old. The basis of the inspector's claims are that the second floor of the home was constructed without a permit, citing numerous modern housing code violations, codes enacted long after the home's construction. The report issued fails to make the requisite finding that the second floor of the home was constructed at a time when the codes cited were in effect. We've checked as far back as possible with prior owners who've sworn by affidavit that they did not construct the home's second story, see Exhibit U. We contend every code cited by Inspector Lovato is inapplicable and the house is in its entirety really should just be grandfathered. The issue is significant because the city is effectively requiring the owners to prove a negative here. If the second floor was constructed before the adoption of housing codes, how could the owners realistically prove that no permit was required at the time? Records from decades ago may not exist, and many historic properties predate the adoption of housing code in Sacramento altogether. The implications extend far beyond this property. Under the city's theory, owners of historic homes throughout Sacramento would be placed in an impossible position, forced to prove that permits were not required for construction completed generations earlier. That standard would place virtually every historic home at risk of citation based solely on the absence of record the city itself may not possess. Taken to its logical conclusion, inspectors could issue citations across entire historic neighborhoods, while property owners would have little meaningful ability to defend themselves. Due process cannot depend on requiring citizens to disprove speculative violations tied to construction occurring decades before modern code requirements or record-keeping practices. Rather, the burden must remain on the city to establish, with substantial evidence, that's the standard, that the structure was unlawful at the time it was constructed or altered, and that a permit was in fact required under the ordinances then in effect. I'm happy to address each alleged code violations and the errors propounded by the city tonight if you wish, or for purposes of time, you can refer to the letter provided which addresses why each alleged code violation is incorrect based on non-existent code or lacks sufficient finding to understand or justify the alleged violation. The letter also provides the possible legal claims my clients now have as they've exhausted their administrative remedies before you this evening. Because of this and because of the facts set forth in the letter provided to you this evening, I'd urge this board to lift all penalties and the cloud on title from my client's property. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now take any questions or comments from the board.
I have, yeah, okay. So that was a lot. So I have 3 questions I'm going to start with here. First, I'm going to actually aim it over to our attorney. According to Sacramento Code Section 1.04-100, the code says that personal service, as she says, has to be done, or posting plus simultaneous certified and first-class mail. So accordingly, the posting was done, I see as the picture that was uploaded by Inspector Lovato. It says simultaneously certified and first-class mail, which was done to the address that was posted or by the owners of the property and the mailing address they put for the recording of the title. Nothing in the government code section says it has to be received. So is it just the attempt that has to be made, or do they have to actually have signed the green card?
Are you referring to,
The proper notice.
yeah, right, so you're referring to 1.04.100, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and so again, it provides several methods by which service can be effectuated. One would be personal service, another would be, as you stated, posting the notice and order conspicuously on or in front of the property and simultaneously mailing the notice and order by both certified mail, return receipt, requested, and first-class mail, correct? And so, again, there is no reference to the fact that it needs to be received. It's simply that the action has to be effectuated for service to be effectuated.
Okay, so I just wanted to be sure that I'm interpreting the law correctly, is that the attempt was made to the address that was provided by your clients, right? Your clients.
The address was the house itself, correct?
Correct.
It was returned undeliverable.
Okay, so it sounds like according to our legal counsel that that part was met, that they did post it. So I just wanted to be clear. So in that part, at least, I get the address. Now I'm going to shift this direction.
Would it be possible to add to the attorney's analysis here? Under the U.S. Constitution's Supremacy Clause, under due process, notice has to be reasonably calculated to get to the individual.
But they technically, wouldn't that be done because they posted it at the property that they bought and own and then attempted to mail it? Short of that, I don't know what else they could have done.
Well, they could have, most attorneys, when they can't locate the individual, they have a process server investigate where that individual is. I would add that there were extenuating circumstances here.
And I get that. And so, and I completely understand the extenuating circumstances, but we have to go off the law here specifically. So I just wanted to make sure if that is one of your arguments, that if he would have said it had to have been signed, you're right. That would have met it and I could have stopped there. So I'm going to continue on to the other two just to see if the other two will be a way for you. Also, you're mentioning that you're trying to get the fees waived on this one. This is just the notice and order appeal. This is not a fee waiver. So just so you're aware, we can't rule on any fees. This is just notice and order if it was served properly. Geez, this new title. What's your title? I'd like to say it properly. Principal Building Inspector Lothar. As the RHIP, this is technically, they're saying the family members. So would this fall under an exemption, or do the family members, if they're paying, does that count? Or it could be Mr. Lemos, sorry. I don't know, but I know, you know, either one of you?
If it's exempt, they would have to file for an exemption because there is an exemption for immediate family members who are residing in a property. If they're doing a contract with outside family members, they would have to define that and still apply through the rental housing inspection program, but under an exemption if that's what it fell under. We don't know the entire.
Did this property have an exemption on file?
No, there was no record on file.
Okay. And then my third question is I definitely understand, because I also have a property that's built quite old, but I also understand the definition of something older. So I just want to know as well, because obviously if there was a room in a house that was 2 foot by 2 foot, just because it was there in 1920 doesn't mean a person can rent that room. I mean, obviously there's got to be.
The house was rented to all 4 tenants. There were a lot of incorrect assumptions that unfortunately the inspector was led to believe based on ulterior motives from the former tenant. I think he would, yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that. So trust me, we see a lot of cases where the tenant's unhappy and they use that as a mechanism to get back. And unfortunately, that works if the inspector can find something that is illegal. And so I understand, like I said, the mailing thing, I was curious about the rental housing inspection. Are there rules specifically, sorry, back to both of you, I don't know which one to aim at, so I'm going to just look in both your direction. Are there rules about, so let's say there's a house built in the 1800s, but for rental purposes, are there rules about what can be considered a dwelling or an occupied space?
We would fall into the area of what would be grandfathered in, something that was built at the time of construction, it was permitted and approved in that state. It was maintained in that and wasn't modified or changed or led to be deteriorated. In this case, you know, we don't take what the tenant or occupant is telling us the violation. We have to confirm the violations. So the inspector goes in, sees something that's never been allowed by code by ceiling heights at that level, and then sees modifications to the building that would have made it come up to current code, such as the electrical outlets or duplex receptacles in the bathrooms. So these are grounded duplex receptacles, would have needed a permit to upgrade them. In turn, the bathroom height of the ceiling would have had to been corrected, so because it's changing the grandfather of the use. So that's what the inspector's using to build the case on. Yes, they have a tenant pointing things out, things like that, but unless the inspector can verify and find the violations that he's seeing as correct, then we can't note it. We get complaints about all kinds of things, but we have to find that there is a violation of the building code, and that is what the inspector found. He found these ceiling heights that would not be allowed, the dimensions of the room that would not be allowed, and then work that was done without a permit because if it would have had a permit, other modifications would have had to have been done.
Okay. So technically, that makes sense. So meaning that was an original space intended to be an attic. It was converted at a later time. But if that was an intended space at the time it was built to be a room that was habitable, you would grandfather it in.
If it was unmodified, unchanged, and met codes and approvals at the time it was constructed.
At the time, okay.
So looking at the structure, it could have been a loft.
Yes.
It wouldn't be occupiable space, it wouldn't have a bathroom.
Or in this case, they said an attic.
Correct.
Yeah.
Finished or unfinished, we can't tell that unless we went in and tested the sheetrock or got to the backside and looked at the manufacturing and type of sheetrock. Is it containing asbestos, lead, things like that that were prior. But that wasn't the goal of having to determine the age of this. It was, can it be occupied or not? And if not, then a certain amount of work has to be done to make it, turn it back into a loft, non-inhabitable space.
Okay. Trying to find reasons here for you. We have to go off the Sacramento City Code. I actually thought you might have got it on the first one. I thought we were going to stop there, but I only caught 3 things. So I will say, it sounds like they intended to rent this place or to buy this place for their own habitability. Can I ask Inspector Lovato if they were, I mean, I get that you've inspected it. Obviously, you were invited into the house from tenants that you guys approved to put in there. And so that's where this complaint came from. Sucks when, especially it's family members, but I understand. But he also did his job. If they were to, is it, or I don't know, sorry, I'll go to you first. Is the place still rented, all 4 rooms?
No, it's entirely vacant right now.
There we go. So if the place is entire, sorry.
If I may, though, just to circle back on the issue of notice. So Sacramento Municipal Code does require delivery. They do not require delivery. It's certified plus USPS regular mail. However, the U.S. Constitution supersedes Sacramento Municipal Code. The U.S. Constitution under Moulin requires that notice must be reasonably calculated to reach the people to provide notice.
I mean, I would argument that the address that your clients provided to the city of Sacramento was reasonable. I mean, if I wanted to evade, I would put a fake address too. I'm not saying they put a fake address. I'm saying they put the real address that they bought. So I would say the argument is the city did make a all-effort attempt to reach by posting and mailing.
And to your point, there is case law around notice and due process. Under the constitutional mandate, notice can be delivered to the specific residence, but it has to be delivered to someone who would be competent and capable of delivering notice to the affected party. Here we have notice being delivered either to a vacant address or to a party that has an ulterior motive to keep things from the landlord.
I understand, but this board can only really do Sacramento City Code. I can't, I mean, and we're also not attorneys, so I mean, well, we're not. If you would like to address it.
I can briefly. So to the board's point, I understand the conflict of laws issue that you're bringing up a preemption issue, and I completely understand that. Unfortunately, though, this board can only decide based on the Sacramento City Code. I understand that the Constitution would take precedence, hypothetically, if you can show that in a court of law, but this is, again, this is a city board. If that's an argument you would want to bring up via a subsequent appeal, whether it's via writ, that is your prerogative, but that's not for this board to decide.
We're not that powerful. I'm sorry.
Well, I understand, but still the U.S. Constitution still applies here. So Sacramento Municipal Code does not supersede the Constitution. And I just want to be clear, you know, the liability, the legal liability that the city, I love Sacramento. So I just want to, you know, be clear with you and forthcoming of the legal liability that Sacramento is taking on when it does not provide notice that is reasonably calculated to get to the owners of the property.
And it's important to note, we're not City of Sacramento employees. We don't represent the city at all. We're an independent board. So I understand, but I would definitely take that up with city, across the way. But we can't. We have to enforce what the city says. If the city was to enforce something that was illegal, this board is still required to uphold what it says, and then you would have to take that next step, unfortunately. So let me just quickly ask him, because I'm trying to get to a yes here, is what I'm trying to get you to. oh, sorry. So, question real quick. If their house is no longer being rented, so it's no longer technically in violation of the rental housing inspection program that I'm aware of, if they were just to not rent it and return the status to just a livable dwelling for themselves, what's the next steps? The easiest thing to make this go away for them?
So the easiest thing, when they were talking about the second floor and grandfathering in and everything like that, when people do work on their house and they pull a building permit, once that building permit is finalized, it goes to the county and the county records it on the property. If you do an addition onto your house, if you put a second story on the house, whatever you do to the house, whether it was 1930 or now, anytime a permit is finalized, the county records it on the property. So first off, on the county, well, the city and the county, it shows, and I've got it in the packet there, it shows the property as being 1,107 square feet of the ground floor area, 0 floor area for the upper level, 0 floor level for a finished basement. So it doesn't show anything about upper level, loft, second story. It doesn't, there's nothing on that. So that was on the permits. If there ever was a permit for that work, it would have been recorded with the county on that property.
And I know what you're going to say, because
Yep, and the other thing too is on the service, everything that we have and the county has shows the owners live at the property. So that's the only address we have. So everything shows that property. Even though I go over there ending of last year and it was tenants that were living there, in our records it shows the owners live there.
Okay. So are you saying then, even with the tenants gone, they can't make it go away without pulling permits to fix what's currently showing?
Yeah, either pull the permits for the addition that would be upstairs or to remove it. That's all we need is a permit. And then the county records it on their property.
Okay. I mean, technically it could be, I mean, the work's already done, and by adding square footage to the property, the increased value could be quite drastic, but that's not for this board. Go ahead. I think you were going to say something.
Oh, well, you know, the assumption there is that there was a addition made at a time when the housing code was adopted by the city, and when, if it is an addition or if it's original, I don't know.
Well, they already said it, Mr. Lemos over there said, judging by the electrical outlets and everything, it's more modern, so it shows that work has been done.
Well, I would counter that with electrical outlets can be replaced modernly. My house is old and I have modern outlets in it. So there really was no finding. Under the substantial evidence standard, there was no finding in the report that found that this house or the second floor was constructed at a time when the Sacramento city had adopted the housing code here. And so for that reason, I believe that this entire house should be grandfathered in.
Okay.
Seems the fair thing to do, especially under the circumstances. My clients were going through a very difficult time. They had to fly back to Puerto Rico. They had a funeral to go to. They had 2 funerals to go to. So it was a very difficult time for them. And then on top of that, they were dealing with the small claims issue that was leveraged against them, basically using the city of Sacramento as a means.
Oh, yeah. And I get it. Listen, I was trying to find a way to yes for them. I get it. Like it sounded, I was trying to find a way to yes, but we have to at least show how the city of Sacramento violated it. And in just my opinion, like I just don't see it right now. And it's just me. There's other board members. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to the board for any other questions. Sorry.
If I may, one last point here. We don't check the US Constitution at the door. It still applies here. And
And we didn't say that. We just said we can't rule on that. This board is only able to rule on that. And I highly encourage you, if you think that that's a stronger case, to take it to the next step for sure.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize.
What? No, I was done. That's fine.
The problem is that my clients have to incur substantial attorney's fees to take it to the next level. They've already been so wronged in this situation. The notice really was not proper under the US Constitution. It does, certified mail, it doesn't have, so, okay. Certified mail does have to reach the occupant.
Okay, let me just stop you there.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to get you to yes. What is the ultimate situation that your clients would like? I mean, obviously, the city is saying that the rental housing inspection part's probably gonna be done, it sounds like, because there's no tenants left. But they're gonna make you pull permits to just legalize what's there. Are they saying that they don't wanna legalize and make it? And I mean, what's the ultimate outcome here?
I really feel that my tenants, I'm sorry, my clients have been wronged by their tenants.
I agree, but there's not much we can do when they invited them in and they actually brought an inspector to see that there were code violations. So we're past that. Just like if a tenant was to grow pot in a house, it's the owner's problem. That's illegal. The person goes to jail, but it becomes the violation and all the fines go to the owner of the house, which I also don't agree with. But that's the city code and it sucks. As a owner, I don't like it. But we have to uphold city code. So I'm trying to get to a yes on the best outcome for your clients. What is it that they ultimately want? Because I'm just letting you know, in my opinion only, there's 4 board members. They haven't met their 3 things that you wanted to make the contestant go away. But we can try and help you at least get to this conclusion. Are they willing to pull a permit and legalize the rest of the property? Make sure your green button's on, though.
Just to be totally honest, this has been an unmitigated nightmare. Absolute nightmare. The people that we tried to even buy this house for, to begin with, because the tenants were being so hostile, my husband's sister couldn't even get here in time. And she ended up dying of her cancer. But that's the exact same time that his cousin knew we were going through this. And instead of just being a reasonable person and saying, I'm having trouble with money, is there something you can do? He went completely behind our backs to try to get us in trouble with the city, when he wasn't even living in a place where he was supposed to have been living. We never rented him that space for him to live in. That was always a loft. And it's so clear in the lease agreement that we gave to him that this is a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom house with a loft. It's like he decided that that was the worst thing that he could find to bring somebody in to try to punish us because we couldn't find him a job that made him happy. And we tried so hard to try to find them better jobs when they got here. And we only found out after they left the reason why they weren't applying for any of the jobs that we were trying to find for them is because they didn't want to go through drug testing. And so it's like, not only are we trying to help you and you're not wanting our help, but now you're going behind us to try to get us in trouble, and now we're stuck with this house that we can't get anybody to live in because we tried to get into the rental inspection program like back in October, and then we got denied, and I didn't understand why we got denied, and now I get it because he had these processes going on that we had no idea about.
Listen, I don't want you to have to relive this. It does suck, I agree. And this is why I said I wrote all these notes to see how we can get around this for you. But we have to uphold city code. And that's why I'm saying, instead of just saying, I'm going to vote no for this, I'm trying to find how to conclude this for you. I want to find a way that at least, obviously, in my personal opinion, we haven't found a way around it. So what is the ultimate conclusion that you want so we can try and at least meet somewhere in the middle, in my opinion, as one board member?
At this point,
If I may, I'm sorry, let me interrupt for one moment. The standard here is substantial evidence. The finding does have to be in the report. There is no finding in the report that this is a modern alteration. Nothing in the report says that.
I think you're arguing to a person. Like, listen, I get what you're saying that's fine if you're saying it for the rest of the group. You can continue arguing if they have questions on that. If they all disagree with me, you've won, and that's fine. We'll let them ask some questions. I just want to know how we can help, but if you want, we can circle back and see what they all think. How about we do that? Because I just don't want to waste your time arguing this case if we all have the same opinion.
All right, JR, do you want me to,
Yeah,
me
go
to take
ahead.
over?
Yeah.
All right. So thanks, y'all, for being here today. I know this is a lot, okay? Before I get going, Brandon, you got anything? Okay. You got anything? Okay. One note, I do see we have the rental property inspection program is current as of the December 1st, 2025. Is that correct? Yes. Thank you. Okay. Now, from my understanding, city staff was working in good faith when they did the notice and order to, well, not the notice and order, when they sent certified mail to this address. And I know that is a point of contention. However, they did the best they could with the information they had present on that property. Now, whether or not folks were living in that home, city staff can only do what they have with the information available on with what they can pull from the county. So if all they have is that address as a contact, that is all they have. Now, if we want to elevate that to the courts, I'm not an attorney. This is not a court of law. And we can deal with that later. I am a mere citizen, and we can only look at city code right now. So I just want to check, you guys, once you were made aware, because it does seem you kind of got into this thing quick. It doesn't seem like you live in the city of Sacramento. You kind of got into this property quick because you bought it and then you rented it to these folks within a month. You got into this quick, kind of seems like life was happening. So what is the outcome we're looking for today with the notice and order? Because we cannot do anything with the fines at this hearing. So what is it we're looking to get done with this 4-person board? Right now it's 6:18 at May 13th.
I would also add, even assuming notice was proper, it wasn't under the Constitution, but even assuming it was, there is no finding in the report that this is a modern alteration subject to the modern housing codes of the city of Sacramento.
Ma'am, I can look at those photos and tell you that has been altered since 1922. Let's be honest here, and that's what they're basing that off of. So I can look at those photos and say that has been altered since 1922, and I don't know the full lien on that property. However, when they got that inspected, we can all probably, a reasonable person can say that has been somewhat altered by me even looking at the outlets, looking at the light fixtures. That space has been altered since 1922, and Paul, is that what you were basing that off of? Because you know a lot more about buildings than I do.
Yeah, I mean, the bathroom did look modern, more modern than, like you say, than 1922. The other thing that caught my eye is in that room, there is no heat or air. So with no air moving in that space, I mean, even if it was legalized back then, there was still heat. So there is nothing up there in that attic. They had portables that they could plug in to use for heat or air. Then the other thing is when I go back and look up the county to see the square footage, that also backed up what I was saying.
What concerned me about that county report is the county report does say it's 1 story. So when you're pulling the property report from the county, it clearly states it is a 1-story building. And so I know it was not intended to be a habitable space, and so we can, but really, what is the outcome we're getting to today?
Well,
How can we help you? Because we're trying to help.
I understand. The home was built in 1922. Housing code was adopted sometime, I believe, around 1961. I've seen this second floor. I have a degree in design, and it looks vintage to me. It very well could have been original to the house, or it could have been constructed sometime between 1922 and the time that the city of Sacramento adopted housing code. I think that it needs to be grandfathered in. Certainly, light fixtures, electrical outlets, those are all things that do not require a permit and are often replaced by owners modernly.
Let's ask him.
Okay.
Anything that touches the utilities in a wall requires a permit. A permit is required to put a toilet in.
I know, and I hate that. I'm sorry, my own personal opinion, but I disagree as well with that, and I hate it, and I'll tell you, he's fined me already once. And I don't like it either, because a toilet takes all of 30 minutes to install, and you're right.
Well, it was my understanding that anything under $500 is.
Doesn't require a contractor. Still requires a permit. Sadly, this is the city, yes, trust me, I'm telling you right now, that's why I'm trying to find a yes for them, is because anything you said, modern outlets, any outlets up there, it was not a habitable space.
Well, there are permits for outlets, for electrical work that were.
Not in the second floor. He just said there's no permits that were pulled on this property.
Oh, that's not true.
For the second floor?
I don't know. They're very ancient-looking documents.
Listen, we can argue this as back and forth. Obviously, it sounds like at least half of us disagree with this work has been done since building codes have been in. And those outlets have a 3-prong, which means those have been done at least within the last 40 years, I would assume.
There were electrical permits pulled in the late 70s.
For the
this house.
upstairs, though.
It's unclear. The problem with this is that the record keeping of the city of Sacramento is not going to sync with what the inspector is requiring here.
I'm just letting you know that right now, I'm willing to uphold the city of Sacramento. I'm trying to find a way to get them to not, what is it that they want other than, I'm obviously personally, and it sounds like at least 2 of us are going to not agree, we're going to side with the city. With that, I'm happy for you to take this to the next step if you disagree with us and think you can prove that that is pre-1960 building code. But I don't think you're going to be successful. But I want them, they've been through quite a bit already, I want them to at least have a good outcome instead of 20 minutes ago, normally we would have voted on something like this and said, we agree with the city. But we obviously are trying to understand that there are extenuating circumstances, and I don't want to just rush this out and say, too bad, let's just move on to the next case. I'm trying to get to, I'm telling you, it sounds like you're going to lose. We would like to help you instead of just saying no. If you would just like to move on, that's fine. I'm happy to do that, but I also want to at least make sure, because we can give them more time if that's something that they want as part of our ruling as well.
Well, I think we would like more time, but I would also say that the city of Sacramento has a substantial evidence standard. So there is a prima facie case of the findings made in the report. There is no finding that this is a new addition subject to any Sacramento housing code, modern housing code. And so.
Okay,
yeah.
Here's the thing, this board will vote, and the issue is if we are wrong and we voted to say that that was fine and that house burned down because of an electrical outlet, I'm gonna err on the side that the city building inspector knows what he's doing, and I'm just letting you know. I highly encourage you, if this board votes in the favor of the city, to take it to the next step if you think that strongly. But in the meantime, I really get where you're going. I get how you feel, and I highly encourage the next step. But in the meantime, how can we help them? This is my last time I'm gonna ask. I'm really trying to help. I really am. Do you intend to pull permits to at least legalize the area? What would you like? Because we can tell them that they have to give you more than 30 days.
Honestly, I just want this to be the house that we purchased. Like, we purchased this house being, on the face of it, a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, meaning that everything that they told us was permitted. Because that was something that I asked when we were purchasing this house, because we even had to use a veteran's loan because of my husband's years of service. And we have every intention of having this be a house that is livable. I would be perfectly fine with trying to make this come up to code to the house that we purchased. But I can't do that without time to do so. And I also can't do that with, it feels like almost like a gun to our heads from everybody.
Well, right now, if we were to just vote, you would have, I think, 30 days. So that's why I'm trying to get you a time extension to maybe 60 days to get you double the amount of time so that you can start pulling it. Because all you have to do is pull a permit and then the clock stops and then you just have to show that work is being done. So I want to give you enough time, so because the other thing is every 30 days that work isn't done, they can do a monitoring fee. Is that what, am I saying it right? Monitoring fee, which you'll accrue another $300 and some every month it's not done. So again, while we can't rule on fees right now because this is just the notice and order, I don't want any of that to happen. I'm trying to prevent all of that. So if you're just looking for that, like I'm happy to, at least, I'm one board member, but I'm happy to make a recommendation that we give you double the amount of time, and then you would still have to continue to work with Inspector Lovato to get the work done and pull the permits, and he'll work with you along the way.
I would request a different inspector, given the circumstances.
I can't rule on that.
I would have a
we
really
can't.
hard time thinking that he's working in good faith when he wouldn't even meet with us to try to make any kind of reasonable argument to try to get him up to speed on the fact that he was given very deceiving information from a family member. And he basically told us, well, that's too bad. You need to tear it down.
I mean, that's the city code. I get it. I've had the same issue in the past, so that's why I understand and I empathize with you. We can't make personnel decisions, so we can rule on the city stuff to give you more time and whatever, but you'll need to talk to the okay.
Principal Building Inspector Lothar. We don't switch out building inspectors. If you would like, if Paul is going to continue to run the case as accordingly, but if you would like, I can join him at the inspections as we go through and talk to you, tell you the processes, and go over it, but changing the inspectors is something that we do not do.
I would feel much more comfortable if you were there as.
Okay, so sorry, just because we're now at an hour for this one case, which usually lasts about 15 minutes. So we'll have that taken on the side. So for right now, are you happy with 60 days?
Well, if I may, I think there's also a narrowing as well. And that is that there were no findings that this is a modern structure subject to housing code. So if, in fact, you're saying that the duplex outlets are subject to modern housing codes and those were changed out sometime after the 1978 permit, then I think we just need to limit what needs to be done here. Rebuilding.
We can't do
To my
that.
knowledge, that's out of the purview of this hearing. We are only talking about the notice and order, and that's way out of the purview of what we can do as a board. So,
Well, yeah, it is, because there has to be there are evidentiary standards here at this hearing.
No, what she's saying is we're not experts. We can't tell you that you don't have to do one thing to another. We have no expertise in building. So
We're not piecing apart the evidence of that claim here in this hearing right now.
it's only if the notice and order was properly served. That's all we're voting on right now. But on top of that, we can add, like I said, things to give them more time. Again, this is very clear. That's why I said we can't even rule on fees because this is not that type of hearing.
But there are standards of evidence that the findings have to be.
And you can bring that, just not to this board. We just can't. I get that. The evidence, in our opinion so far, it seems that the city of Sacramento has made clear that this building is in violation. Like I said, if you feel strong enough that you have enough evidence to take this to the next step, I think you would. But I think we both agree that this is modern post-1960 upgrades.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying, though. The structure itself could be vintage where the outlets are modern. And so the issue is.
But there you go. You have modern outlets that you don't have a permit for upstairs. That's one violation which triggers the entire thing. You don't have to have the whole thing. Once he got one violation, he has the right to mark everything else he sees. So all we can say is, let's say he found one thing. That's all we're saying is that notice and order is now correct. And the electrical outlets are one thing. There's no permit for that.
I would defer to Inspector Lovato. Are the duplex outlets circa 1970s?
No, I would not, well, go ahead, but I would also ask, are there any permits to add electrical to the building that didn't have them in the upstairs attic area as well?
Normally, when I'm working a case, I do sit down with the owners and I talk to them about what's required, what's not required, what permits are needed, how could we get to the end, I usually work with the owners. I have, since my preliminary letters, notice and orders, hearings, last month we were here for the hearings, but it got moved. I have not heard from these owners at all. I've never once heard from them. So how they could say that they don't want to work with me because of what a tenant said, we've never spoken. I don't understand that.
To be clear, I was authorized by my clients on April 8th. I spoke with Inspector Lovato, and he was only willing to sit down and expunge the cloud on title if my clients completely demolished the second floor of their home.
Or pull a building permit.
That's not what he said.
If that's not what you heard, I'll mention it now. I think I already mentioned it before. It's either going to be legalize that or remove it. Both of them require a permit. One permit could be over the counter. One permit's going to take engineers and architects to figure out everything. I mean, the engineers and architects, when they go to do the permitting, they're going to see what has to be done. We need to know which way they're going to go.
Yeah. At this point, if there's I'm ready to make a motion unless there's any other questions, but I haven't heard a date, so I'm going to go ahead and just, I can't personally, but I'm going to make a motion giving them 60 days at least so that we can at least try and get more time. You'll have to work with the city on having, well, it's like principal, that's it. Principal Inspector Lothar to join. We can't make those decisions, but I do, like I said, I empathize, I understand, especially as a property owner. I want to make sure you guys have at least time to do it. But in my personal opinion, so I'm going to make a recommendation finding that the property owner has violated the provisions of Chapter 8.96 or 8.100 of the Sacramento City Code, ordering the property owner to obtain a permit to correct the dangerous conditions or demolish the structure within 60 days of the date of the decision, and ordering if the property owner fails, refuses, or neglects to correct dangerous condition or demolish the structure within the time set forth in this decision, that the city of Sacramento may repair, demolish, or secure the structure or institute an action to compel compliance with the order for the property known as 4124 T Street, Sacramento, California, 95819, APN number 0110113011000.
Second.
Fisher,
Yes.
Taylor,
Aye.
and Tablian.
Yes.
Bunting? Thank you.
So Attorney, we did find in favor of the city. However, we extended it from 30 days to 60 days. And you all will receive formal notification of our decision in the mail. I just want to confirm that they'll receive this information to the address here.
That's actually a good question. We want to make sure you do get the correct.
Get the
Well, the tenants were literally hiding our mail from us when we went to try to find it, so.
Well, we have you, though. I want to make sure that they have, so is there an updated, you don't have to say it on the record out
Right.
loud, but if you would like to step outside and talk to,
I believe I have Amy's address. I can. mail
okay.
it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. So we'll make sure to send it to your office. Thank you. All right. Item number 3.
Hold on if you want to wait, Barry's here
Oh, all right.
before we started.
Yes.
All right, and then, can I just say it, who's the nice guy in the back that always helps us? The guy in the back that comes out and sets the stuff up. Doug? Doug, if you're listening back there, we moved the microphone to the attorney, and his microphone is going in and out, so I think on the next hearing, we need to just get rid of that microphone. Yeah. He did test it, and it did work, so it's not like we were like, hey, let's give it to him. He moved it from one spot to another.
I'm perfectly capable of speaking up if I need to.
Oh, I felt bad, but I wanted Doug in the back to know the microphone probably should be replaced.
Yes.
All right.
All right, we've now called in item number 3, and Mr. Boyd has joined us. Inspector Paul Lovato, address 4455 71st Street, and appellant Larry Oddbeck. I hope I said it correct. Yeah, right. Oddbeck, thank you. All right, the secretary will swear you in.
If I could have all parties for item number 3 for the property located at 4455 71st Street. Please raise your right hand and answer the following question. Do you solemnly swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony and evidence that you give at this hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Lovato.
This is agenda item number 3, case numbers 24-004168. The property owner shows to be Michael and Sarah Gellenbeck. Property address is 4455 71st Street, Sacramento, California, 95820. Parcel number 021-026-101-30000. Today's May 13th, 2026. My name is Paul Lovato, Building Inspector with Housing and Dangerous Buildings. This case opened on February 1st, 2024, and the current case status is closed. On February 12th, 2024, I arrived on site for a complaint of a dilapidated, vacant property. Squatters have taken over the property, and the owner was in the care home for over 2 years. I spoke with the person at the house, whose name is Fred. He stated he's living at the dwelling. I asked about a rental agreement or something showing that he is to be there. He stated he moved there about 3 years ago and was helping the owner of the property around the house. After a year and a half of being there, the owner ended up going to a care home. The tenant stated he is still working around the dwelling and is involved in the code enforcement on the cleanup with the yards. I still let him know we need something to show he's supposed to be there. He then called the owner's sister, and she stated they would like him to be there so the property is not vacant. I asked her if she could get something from the owner showing Fred is supposed to be on site. She stated she would call him and then call me back. On April 15th, 2024 at 9:31 a.m., I arrived at the single-family residence. I took photos and updated the case files due to lack of contact from the owner and failure to obtain the housing and dangerous permit. I issued the notice and order. I also ordered a cloud be placed on the title and the title report done. On March 6, 2025, I received a call from the old caretaker of the property owner, Fred, that stated someone was breaking into the property and he was inside the dwelling. I told him to call the police and I would head that way. When I got there, there was a gentleman out in front who was in a wheelchair sitting out front with a lady. I walked up to him and asked who he was. He stated he was the owner of the property and the lady with him was his caretaker. He stated his old caretaker was inside the house and would not let him in. He stated the locks were changed out. He then went to the house and spoke with Fred, or I then went to the house and spoke with Fred. I let Fred know the gentleman was the owner and he was now home from the hospital. Fred stated he was going through the adverse possession of the property and was not going to allow him inside the property. The police then showed up and I explained to them what I knew. They then went to the property owner and spoke with him, then went to talk with Fred. I asked the police department if I was needed on site, and they said I could go ahead and leave. I gave them my business card and said if they needed anything else, they could call me. On April 18th, 2025, as I woke up and I had the news on, there showed to be police at 4455 71st Street due to shots fired. As I was watching the updates on the property, Sacramento Police Department's Officer Carson called me to let me know what had happened at the property. I then showed up to the property at 7 a.m. The streets were blocked off, and as I pulled up to the yellow tape, the officer stopping people from entering the street came to my vehicle. I let her know who I was and why I was on site. I let her know that I had been involved with the property and with the people in the house for the past year. She then asked if I had a card and she would pass it on to the homicide detectives. I let her know I would be the one to secure the property and to turn off the utilities. I then left the property. About an hour after I left, I received a call from the detectives and they wanted to get my statement of what I knew about the owner and the other people in the house. I filled them in with this information I knew. He then stated that he would contact me back after the investigation was completed to secure the property. I received a call at 3:00 p.m. from the homicide detective stating they were finished with the investigation and wanted the house boarded up. I then arrived on site at 3:30 p.m. with the on-call inspector, building inspector Martinoni, to go over the securement required. We walked the property, contacted Gray Construction and L&M Fencing. I then left the site and building inspector Martinoni stayed for the securement. On December 16, 2025, I received a call from the new property owner stating he is ready to have the temporary fence removed. I called L&M Fencing to have the fence removed. On January 9, 2026, I met with L&M Fencing, temporary fencing, to have the fence removed from the property to stop any additional fees charged to the new owners. On March 4, 2026, I arrived on site for a building final inspection on permit RES 2603969, and I approved it. That's when the case was closed. So this is the itemized cost for this work is a securement cost, which is $225, administrative fees, $380, other costs was $30.40. The total cost comes to $635.40. The notice of the Les Pendens Cloud was properly recorded at the Sacramento County's Assessor's Office on May 8, 2024. The property owner was not contacted prior to issuing a notice and order. A preliminary letter was sent on March 18, 2024. The notice and order was sent to the property owner's address listed on the current title report of 4455 71st Street, Sacramento, California, 95820. It was effectively served on April 29, 2024 by substitute service, and the notice and order was not upheld. The appellant has received the information being presented this evening. Staff recommends the board adopts a decision confirming the total charge of $635.40 for the work performed by the city on the property known as 4455 71st Street, Sacramento, California, 95820, parcel number 021-026-101-30000. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your appeal. Make sure your green light is on.
Yes. First thing I'd like to address is that when they mailed the notice, the owner of the property was dead. And I think they knew that. But I'm really not here to question that. We bought the property on the 12th of December. And
What year?
of 25. I'm going to read you the declaration of my agent, or was involved in the property, because he's the one who actually talked to Mr. Lovato about removing the fence. And he signed this under penalty of perjury. I'm the individual, Darrell Johnson's is the name. I'm an individual and a resident of Sacramento County. I have personal knowledge of the following. I have knowledge surrounding the purchase of the property at 4451 71st Street by Global Capital in or about December 22nd, 2005. On behalf of Global Capital, I called Paul Lovato at Code Enforcement for the City of Sacramento to tell him that the city should remove the temporary fence that had been installed on the property as it was not needed any longer. Mr. Lovato stated to me that he would take care of it. I made a follow-up call to Mr. Lovato about 10 to 12 days later to inform him that the fence had not yet been removed. Mr. Lovato stated to me that he would check on it. The fence was subsequently removed sometime after January. I declare under penalty of perjury the foregoing is true and correct in my personal knowledge, and that the declaration is made on May 13th, 2026. And when Mr. Lovato came out to the property, he told us if we didn't want that fence, to tell him that because the city builds or gets billed in 6 months increments, and we had to get it done before the first of the year. So anyway, that's why we were persistent on calling him about getting the fence taken down. And it's my understanding that this charge is for the fence being there after January 1st or after the first 6 months had expired. So technically, not technically, but maybe the way I see it is that he called, when he did finally get a hold of him, either the time period lapsed for the new billing or that L&M didn't respond fast enough. And when they went out there, that's when they canceled the contract, which was after the time. Because when we bought the property, all the fees were paid up until the 2nd of December. And I think Mr. Lovato can testify to that. So this wasn't a fee when we bought the property because we paid for the stuff before we bought the property, which would have been the first 6 months of the fence rental. Because there's no indication what this billing's about and what months it arrives to.
Thank you for your appeal. Any questions or comments from the board?
Yeah.
I do have one.
Can you address that?
Yeah, so what happened was when they bought the property, during escrow, everything was paid up to date during escrow.
Through what date?
To the day that they bought the property.
So December 2nd?
But the fencing was out there. The fencing is a rental. What happened was the invoice came for the fencing after escrow closed and they moved in. So a bill came in after they purchased the property, which was this bill.
So technically, though, can I ask what dates that fence are
Yes.
for?
So the fence was called out there the day we were out there with the detectives, and that was on April 18th. And then the fence was picked up the first part of January. So there's also the invoice in here that shows L&M picked the fence up January 8th or whatever it was. So for the rental of the fence, it was the $225 from that April to January.
Okay. So, whoops. Okay. So you weren't able to get a partial summary from the fence rental company to cover for escrow at that point?
No.
No.
And to tell you the truth, on the sale of the house, the new owners, I mean, I wasn't involved in that. I mean, I didn't know with realtors what was going on, and
You just got a request.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
So, Mr. Lovato, there were fees associated with this property at the time that he purchased it from the city.
Oh, yes. So when the case opened in 2024, I mean, they were receiving administrative penalties, monitoring fees, securement costs. There was a lot that was on that property. It did get paid during the escrow. This is the invoice that came in after escrow.
Okay.
Because it was a rental.
Okay. And the only reason, because I'm seeing line 1, under description, it says fence January 9th, 2026. That's only because that's the time they issued the invoice, but that's previous fencing. That's not for this period that he's disputing.
I think the January 9th is the date. Yes, January 9th is the date they picked it up. So I met with the fencing company there to verify that they did get it. So January 9th is the date they picked it up. The date it was ordered was on April 18th.
Okay. And
So board,
uh-huh.
to clarify a little bit, so on December 15th, 2025, there was a payoff demand provided to the purchasers or to the title company. It stated that here are the fees up to this time, but there is an ongoing open case and there's 2 liens and clauses against the property. It says there are additional fees and such that can be accumulated until the violations are corrected and the case is closed. The fence was removed and built up until January 9th. So the invoice from the demand on the 15th was paid on the 22nd. So anything between the 22nd and compliance would still be billed to the property owner. So the fence up until January 9th was still billed, so after. So they only have the payoff demand, but it states on there that there is an open case with ongoing violations and ongoing fees that can be accumulated.
I get that. So did you request it to be removed on the 16th from LMN fencing?
Yes, I did.
And so if you requested it, why did it take them so long to remove it on the 9th?
I don't know what took them so long. I mean, I did call and request it, and I didn't go out to the site because I didn't know if they were picking it up right then and there or later on during the day. So I didn't go out there and wait for them. But like Larry had said, probably 10 days later, the owners called me and said, hey, no one's picked up the fence. That's when I went out there and I told L&M, I will be here until you get here. And they did show right up when I told them that.
Okay. My only concern is that is about 3 weeks and 3 days after the initial request for LM. So hopefully on future cases for LM, the fencing company, they can be a little bit faster on their, I mean, I get that's not you, but.
Yeah, they usually are. I don't know what took them so long.
The other thing I'd like to find out is that for, did I pay for 6 months' worth of the fence? Because it went over? Because you remember you said you get paid, billed for 6 months at a time. And that's what we were trying to stop, is getting that second 6 months because we didn't need it.
Oh, I think what he's asking is, did he get billed for 6 months worth of fence for the 1 month of time, for the 3 weeks? The billing comes every 6 months, not, it has to be billed in 6-month intervals, right? Am I making?
Well, yeah, the L&M fencing does bill in 6-month increments. So if you call for a fence and you have it out there for 2 days, their fee is going to be still for 6 months, but it's going to be, it's cheap. I mean, it's $200 or something like that.
Per 6 months.
So this invoice that he received, had they picked it up before December 31st, he would not have gotten the 225, or is this retroactive for the previous 6 months?
No, because it was paid on the 15th, so this has to be for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
Any other questions from the board?
I'm good.
Me too.
I think I'm ready. So, okay, no, let me ask, oh, no, go ahead. Or me, or?
No, I have questions, she has questions.
Oh, no, I don't think she has a question. Can I just ask real quick on the fees then? The $380, I get what the $30 is. Is that also, would that have been, is that for every 6 months too, or is that the one time? What's the $380 for the admin?
The $380 is for our clerical staff, for admin, for the city. That's a one-time charge.
That's a one-time charge for the entire, not from the December though, that goes all the way back to April, right?
That's a one-time charge.
Okay, so I have my thoughts, but I will, Barry, go ahead.
Thank you there. Most of the questions got answered. My question is, as you said, you called in, it was a delay, how many ever days, weeks? With that said, what is the policy that the City of Sacramento code compliance has with L&M when requests for removal of fencing? There has to be a policy written between, in an agreement with the City of Sacramento and L&M. What does that policy state?
I don't know exactly what the policy states because we've never had this where it's taken them that long. Any securement contractor, everything usually happens within that day or the next day. But I didn't know about this. Took them 10 days to get out there to get the fence. I don't know too much about that.
Gotcha. Something that I guess we all need to find out, so we'll have it in the future. But with that said, because it's billed in 6-month increments, there's still going to be, the 225 still was going to happen, even though that you had cleared the fees up to December 15th, 12th, 15th-ish. So the second 6 month of fencing would have started October-ish, somewhere in there going forward. So the 225 was going to happen one way or the other. And the other question I had was going to be, is this a secondary administrative fee of $380, but you're saying it's only a one-time that encompassed the entirety from April 18th, when the fencing went up, until the fence went down?
Well, it's a one-time
Period.
invoice, yes.
Per invoice or for the amount of time of fencing?
Yes.
Yes to which one? The invoice?
Well, if the invoice, like if I had the fence for a year, L&M would send me a bill for a year.
Not broken up in 6 months?
I'm not going to send bill after bill after bill.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood.
Yeah, you order the fence, the day the fence is picked up, that's when we see the billing.
And not 6-month increments?
That's L&M, they say that's how they bill.
So 225 for the entire year? Or from the entire, if it's 1 day, 1 week, 1 year, is $225? Yes. Gotcha. So just curious, where did the 6-month come in from in regards, let me ask the appellant, where did your thought of being billed each 6 months come in for the temporary fencing?
Well, I was understanding that we still were in that first 6-month billing cycle.
Okay, that's what I'm asking you. Where did you get that there's a 6-month billing cycle for temporary fencing?
That was what Mr. Lovato talked about, that we had to get that fence. If we didn't want the fence, we needed to get it down before the next billing cycle kicked in.
Okay, so back to you, because you just said the contrary. So there's only one billing cycle, per what you just said, from the time the temporary fencing goes up until the day the temporary fencing goes down. That's whether 1 day, 1 year, 5 years, according to what you just said. So that's why I'm asking. So it would have been $225, whether it was 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, or 10 years. Do I have that?
They bill in 6-month increments. Yeah, so
That's what I asked, and then you said no, it's the entirety, or maybe
I thought you were talking about the 3.
my mistake, the administrative fee is the 380 for the, but the billing for the fence is each, sorry, my apologies. Now I'm with you. So you understand that part. Gotcha. So the 225 still would have happened. The 380 still would have happened simply because it's for the entirety from April 18th through January 9th, I believe, when the fence went down. So they're, just so we're all, just making sure that you understand that. So,
What I still don't understand is when was my 6 months?
gotcha. So
And we never received any bills.
I understand, and what that said, because the temporary fencing went up April 18th, 2025. 6 months later would have been October 2025. That's first 6 months. Second 6 months from October to, right, and you had it taken down January, so there was January, February, or March, it still would have cost the 225, the one-time administrative fee of 380. That's how we come to the numbers that we come to. So I'm good.
Well, I want to make sure that that's clear how L&M operates. We're assuming that that's how the 6 months start. If they're doing a 6-month increment, they could very well be saying it's January through June, July to the end of the year. That's why his presumption was, get the fence off of my property by the end of the year so that I'm not accruing a new fee in January. Not that it started in April, but the actual, because he said whether it's 1 day, 2 days, it could be from April to whatever the date until the end of June, that's a fee. July 1st to the end of the year, that's a fee. It starts over we're assuming that L&M has a process where it starts, the 6 month ticks, the clock starts when they put the fence in, rather than they're doing January through June, July to the end of December.
So can we just ask, if this fence would have been taken down by December 31st, would there have been another bill?
I would have to look into that. I mean, I don't.
So can you answer his question, though? So it started April 18th. Does the 6-month clock start April 18th? Because that does change it.
Yes.
So the 6-month clock starts that day. So even if the fence was taken down then in December 10th, you still would have got another 6-month bill then, right? Because that would have been in month 2 of 6. Okay, so that changes that then.
Okay, but then that bill should have been included when we paid everything in the 15th, because they knew it was already going to be.
They didn't have the bill yet, though. That's the problem, and that goes to what
It's a third-party contractor, so they're waiting on it. It's not from like the city or the county, and so they have those bills ready. And considering the language in the title said you may have outstanding bills, this is considered that outstanding bill that Peter was mentioning earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know it's a bummer. It's not the most fun fee, but it is one of the outstanding title documents that did come a few weeks later than some of the other ones. Yeah.
In a nutshell, the only way to avoid the additional $225 if the property would have been purchased prior to October 17th and fence taken down at the same time on that date.
Okay, how about the administrative fee? That was billed on, or incurred during the first billing.
Right, so that's a one-time administrative fee for,
No, but I thought that should have been included when we tried to pay all the fees.
I understand what you're saying, but since the invoice hasn't been closed, so it's an ongoing charge, so the administrator is still keeping that case going until an invoice hits. Once the invoice hits that administrator, then the administrator can say, okay, fence is removed, now we can stop the billing, the administrative aspect of that bill.
Now, did the administrative fee come off when the fence was picked up or when we finalized the permit, Mr. Lovato?
The administrative fee goes out when the invoice goes out.
Okay, so we incurred it once the invoice went out.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Any other?
Chair, I understand your point as George walked it through, so you're good on that, whether it's January, June, end of the...
We did not, I mean, L&M is not here, so we won't know that definitively, but I'm good with.
Right on. And to your question and my question prior, let's have that information available to where we, the board, and the public can just go online and pull up that information. If that agreement was a public entity, so it's public access. So that should be readily available, so the appellant could have looked that up and see exactly how billing occurs with L&M through the contractual agreement the city of Sacramento has.
One thing we'd have to keep in mind is we have a list of contractors who do contracted work with us. So I know we're talking about L&M fencing right now, but the list is, there's a lot of demolition, securements. I mean, there's a lot of.
No, I understood. And just, was it bid something with the city of Sacramento? I forget what it's called, where you can go in and pull up the agreements for whatever contract the city does business with, again, because it's a public entity, so the public has access to the dealings with the city of Sacramento. Only the, what's it called, non-disclosure items that we, the public, cannot view. But an agreement with a fencing, securement, gray, whatever they're called, gray something that puts up the boards, those contracts are available to the city, or excuse me, to the public. And so that's what I'm just asking. With that said, because I can't remember the website, if one day when you guys remember, if you'd bring that forward, if Chief Lemos knows where we could find that, he could tell us now. If not, one day soon, so we'll all have it. And just an FYI, and I'll conclude, once that site is found where the public can research fees, make sure to include that language in correspondence to the appellant, so they'll know that they can read what is, and it could suspend and or stop the appellant from appealing, and we wouldn't be here for this particular case, my opinion. Thank you.
I'm ready to.
All right. Is there a motion or any other comments?
I'll make a motion. Listen, I understand this is a unique situation, and again, as I've mentioned in the other case, I'm an individual board member, so I'm going to do what I think is meeting you as somewhat in the middle. The $225 fee is something you would have paid through escrow, so I agree to that, but I do understand the confusion and some of the issues. So I'm going to make a motion reducing your admin fee by 50%. So with that, again, the rest of the board has to agree. So I've done the math here. That's, yeah, sorry, just $445.40, but I'm going to keep it up as I read it. So hold on. So I'm going to make a motion. Oh, I have to go back to the top. If you give me 10 seconds. All right. I'm going to make a motion confirming the total charge and reducing it to $445.40 for the, why does it say $635?
That was the total charge.
Oh, okay. I don't know why in my head that looks wrong. Sorry. Start over. Confirming the total charge now of $445.40 for the work performed by the city on the property known as 4455 71st Street, Sacramento, California, 95820, APN number 02102610130000.
Second.
Fisher,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Tablian,
Yes.
Boyd,
Aye.
Bunting. Thank you.
So we did find in favor of the city. However, we reduced your total charge from $635.40 to $445.40. You'll receive this notification in the mail and any next steps you can take. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 4, Inspector Jeremiah Carter, 6975 Mesa Grande Court. Appellant is Howard Giang. And please correct me if I said your name incorrectly. Thank you. Please come forward. The secretary will swear you in. She has it. Oh. Oh, this is Inspector Park. Please begin. Oh, my apologies. That threw me off.
If I could have all parties for item number 4 for the property located at 6975 Mesa Grande Court, please raise your right hand and answer the following question. Do you solemnly swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony and evidence that you give at this hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Inspector Park, please begin.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. My name is Elijah Prock. I'm building inspector filling in for Jeremiah Carter. This is for the agenda item number 4, case number 250479998. Property owner is Howard, I may butcher his name, Gang. Property address is 6975 Mesa Grande Court, Sacramento, California 95828. Parcel number is 040-018-1007-0000. Today's date is May 13th, 2026. On December 30th, 2025, Mr. Carter met with the tenants of the property. The tenant stated that the water heater was continuously malfunctioned over the past year, and that the owner will come and make temporary repairs that would last for a month or so, and the parts had been ordered to fix it. She stated that she had called PG&E because of a strong smell of natural gas in the garage. The PG&E test revealed a dangerous level of carbon monoxide in the garage and disconnected the gas line to the water heater. She then notified the owner PG&E had disconnected the gas line to the water heater. She said that the owner came by today and threatened to evict him for causing the water heater to continue to malfunction, and that he was not responsible for fixing it. When Mr. Carter inspected the water heater, he observed that the vent has less than 90 degrees angle, causing a backflow of exhaust gases to escape and flow into the garage. Also, the pilot control knob has been strapped down with zip ties, creating a hazardous condition. Mr. Carter called the property owner, who was very upset that the code enforcement was calling him about a problem he did not create. He said he had ordered the part to fix the water heater but did not know when it would arrive. Mr. Carter told him for the dwelling to meet habitability standards that the hot water needed to be working, and that Mr. Carter would be back out for reinspection on January 2nd, 26, to check the water heater, and that if it wasn't working properly, there would be a possibility that there will be costs incurred at the owner's expense to replace the water heater. During the call, the owner was very angry and said he was a former inspector, and Mr. Carter could not do that, and that the city code does not state that he must provide the tenants with the hot water. On January 2nd, 2026, Mr. Carter met with the tenants of the property, and the water heater had not been repaired. The tenants said that they had not heard from the owner. Mr. Carter then called the owner, and there was no answer. Notice was requested to be issued due to noncompliance. This case is currently closed. The total costs are $1,468.80. The notice in order was not appealed. The appellant has received the information being presented this evening. Staff recommends that the board adopts a decision confirming the total charge of $1,468.80. There's a typo there in the report. For the notice in order on the property known as 6975 Mesa Grande Court, Sacramento, California 95825. Property parcel number is 040-0181-007-0000. This report was prepared by Mr. Jeremiah Carter, the building inspector. Please see the documents attached.
Thank you. Mr. Guion, please begin.
Good evening, city member and board. I would like to give, because I didn't make a lot of copy, but I make 4 copies because I noticed that there are 4 member that's not a city employee. I would like to give to follow because I'm going to read something off here, and there is something that I can see. If you can pass it to 4 member, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, first of all, I couldn't hear anything. First of all, the microphone doesn't work. First of all, okay, so it works now? Yeah. Okay. So first of all, I have 3 disputes, and you can look on here, you can see that there's 3 disputes. But before that, I'd like to explain to you a little bit that Mr. Jeremy Carter, the way he conduct is very unprofessional. When I call him, he would tell me like, I'll call you back, and he pick up a different phone that have no call ID. So he would use a phone that communicate with me like his phone or something that not record, so there's no call. He's not here today to actually, because I need to ask him certain question. Today the report that you received here, this is the first time I received it by this inspector right here at the door. He just gave it to me. I have not seen this report before. Okay, this is the first time. And the second thing is that Mr. Jeremy Carter would not arrange a meeting with me at the property where he can point to me that what is considered hazardous structure or dangerous. From the second page that he sent to me, from the 3rd page, that he sent to me, that he said that this is a notice order, substandard and dangerous structure, and this is just a water heater is applying. So that's the first dispute that I have, is that I didn't order the inspection. So let me begin. Another thing is that I'll tell a little bit about myself. I'm a civil engineer, a retired professional civil engineer. I have professional license. And also that a real estate home inspector. I was a real estate home inspector and radon tester. So I have that experience in this field. And also that I did a lot of repair for my home and my rental property. I do hire some professional, do some work if I couldn't do it, if it take too much time. So my background is engineering and home inspector as well. So I know what I'm talking about, okay? So when I read the letter, I object right away, because what happened is that this tenant live here, they live here like about 16 years. And I have some kind of relationship with them. That's why they stay there and they have a cheap rent. But however, they have like 9 or 10 people live there, where the rent agreements only have 5 person only. And they violate that, and also they violate by grow marijuana in the backyard for years. And when they told me that, my son have cancer, and the government allowed me to grow, and then they keep sympathize that they can grow that, and then also they have pet in the house, which they violate the rental agreement as well. And also that the person that called PG&E, she wasn't a legalized tenant on the property. Her name wasn't on the rental property at all. She just happened to be a spouse of one of the tenant, the son. But my agreement with the tenant is that they have, yeah.
Mr. Guion, 1 second. I think we have a discussion from the board.
What I was stating to the chair is, we're here in regards to the violations that you received.
Yes.
And your explanation of your relationship with the tenants, in my opinion, isn't germane to the facts of the violation. The violations being that of a water heater and not that of a complaint from your tenant or your relationship with the tenant.
No, I get to that because I explained to you what the cost and how it get to this point, because if I couldn't explain to you, what happened is that because they have a lot of family members live there, like 9 or 10, they have 6 cars, and then occasionally they have guests from another state came visit. The one here is only 35 gallon, that only pertain for 5-person family, okay? It's a 3-bedroom house, 2 bath, it convert, but they have a lot of members live there. So they often turn the dial and the thermostat to maximum so that they can reheat the water quick so that somebody else can go and take a bath. Okay, so when they did that, sometimes it's fine. Sometimes they forgot to turn it back to the low setting, like the medium. It burned the thermocouple. Thermocouple is like this one. So that the thermocouple control the, like when the water too hot, it will stop. Okay.
I think what he's trying to say, is it okay? I think what he's trying to say is, I get that, we understand that concept. If you look at the inspector's report.
I think it's false. I disagree with the report. That's why I did not appeal for that. I reject that. Everything in here is wrong, it's false accusation. That's why.
So the fact that PG&E came and smelled gas has nothing to do with the coupler there. Obviously, there was a backdraft.
No, let me explain to you, and then you get to that point, it's very understanding, because you will understand why PG will show up.
And Mr. Guillaume, we're only here for the question of, are the fees, costs, and other amounts claimed by the city reasonable and justified? You did not appeal the actual notice and order.
But the penalty is not justifiable, so I didn't appeal. I told them that this is not a code violation.
Right, that would have needed to be appealed on the basis of the notice and order. We're only here to consider the fees. Are they reasonable and justified?
It's not justified because the case is not justified, so the fee is not.
No, that's what he's trying to tell you, is you didn't put an appeal that the case is not justified.
Right.
No, because they asked me to pay $700 to appeal for something is not even a false accused to pay
I think you're
$700
not understanding. There's 2 different appeals. You didn't appeal that this case is not justified.
No, but I told them that I say that this is wrong and everything, but they still insist that, well, even it's wrong, you still have to pay $700.
We get that, and you didn't appeal that the case is wrong. That's not what you're here for today.
No, I came here because they wouldn't give, they told me that, okay, well, you know what, after 1 month, you didn't appeal, we'll not let you appeal anymore. But I said, I would not even appeal for $700.
So the appeal packet comes in the mail automatically. That's not with the inspector. You're only appealing the charges today, you're arguing a case that this is a notice and order. You didn't argue that case. You didn't appeal that case.
No, I argue that case, but not appeal through writing. I appeal because they say that you have to send $700 to appeal that.
That's fine.
And that is confirmed, that to appeal a notice and order, it does cost $700. So that is, I just wanted to note that was correct.
Right, that's correct. But the thing is that I wouldn't pay $700 for something I did not do anything wrong with it. That's the thing. I come here to.
You can't use this hearing to appeal something that we can't listen to. Even if all of that is correct, that's fine. That's not what you're here to hear today. That's not, you can't talk about this case. You're only talking about the fees being unjust.
Yeah, I think the fee unjust because the case is unjust.
But you can't say the case is unjust. You didn't appeal the case.
But let's say if I don't appeal to the case.
You need to talk about why the fees are unjust.
No, but why they send me a letter of something that say danger, but what is the danger? They couldn't prove to me. They didn't send me the evidence. They wouldn't.
PG&E unplugged it.
Yeah, why, then I asked you why P&G come to my property to.
In the notice and order, you would have received the violations. We see it on our end, so I know that you received it. 8.96.110, due to lack hot water, working water heater, and the lack of working smoke detectors, this dwelling is unsafe for human. That is the violation. You would have needed to appeal the notice and order on that violation. We cannot consider that tonight. We can only consider the fees. Are they reasonable and justified? That's all we cannot Monday morning quarterback about the violation.
Yeah, like I said, I came here, I would not pay that fee. Even the government tried to put a lien on my house, it's okay. But I'm telling you, the tenant left the house without paying the last month rent, and the tenant damaged my house, damaged my carpet, damaged a whole bunch of stuff, like at least 8 items I have a list here. And they abandoned my house right now is that I couldn't sell it. My broker put on sale, and then we have to withdraw it because need to repair. And now the repair haven't done yet. And now because the city have some kind of liability or some kind of responsibility for send a forced a forced report or reports inspection because they have no justification to come to a house to do inspection like that. They don't because
They do.
They don't.
The
reason
problem
I
is
do-
it's riddled with errors. You're telling me that your gas water heater on here is a propane from the city. That's not even, you're riddled with errors all over this.
No,
The
no,
city
no.
has the right to come in. It's called the Rental Housing Inspection Program. But again, we're not going to talk about that. We're only going to talk about the fees. We only have a set amount of time. If you have a justification for why you think the fees are unjust, we will hear that.
Yeah, I think the fee unjust because the case is that there's no violation. So how you justify to get a fee if
Mr.
there's no violation?
If that's his argument, that's his argument.
Right, and we understand, but you would have needed to appeal the actual notice and order for us to consider the violations. We cannot now consider the violations because you want to circumvent paying the $700. You would have needed to appeal it and pay the $700 for us to have an opportunity to assess the violations. We cannot do that. We only can consider are the fees and other costs justifiable and
No,
reasonable.
like I said, I don't think it's justified because let's assume as I violate the code that's something that I
Mr. Gallon,
let's
Mr.
assume I
Gallon.
violate. Yeah.
Mr. Gallon,
Okay.
we heard what you stated.
Yeah.
It was repeated to you what we can hear. It's not a just suppose, it's not a hypothetical.
Right.
The actual and only things that we are here to hear
Right.
is in fact, what you appealed. The only thing that you can be conveying, not the only thing that you can be, but the only thing that this board will hear is your conveyance of what you appealed. That is it. There is no Part B, there is no Part C. There is no deference on your opinion to what should be or should not be. The only thing this board will hear is what you appealed. If you are finished with your presentation on what you appealed, we will make a motion because there isn't anything else that this board can listen to outside of what you appealed. That is it, cut and dry. So,
And your argument for the fees cannot be there was no violation. That can't be your argument tonight. You would have needed to argue the basis of the violations from the notice and order appeal, not from this fees and cost appeal. So you can't say the fees and costs are unjustified because there was no violation. You would have needed to do that with the initial notice and order appeal. So is that clear? You can't argue the fees and you can't.
The thing is that there's certain rule that I'm not aware of. This is my first time. You cannot say that, okay, well, there's something wrong with the notice order. And when I talk to them, I call on the phone, I email, they say that, oh, work with the inspector, he will take care of it. So I assume that, okay, I repair, and he came, he's supposed to, he agreed that he came inspect the water heater, and it works fine. And it was like over a few months, and then the tenant just move out without give me a last month notice. I feel that the city is like a city, code enforcement is kind of like a rental defendant. They is on the side of the tenant, they're not on the side of the landlord. Because for me, it's like they punish me, not the tenant. They never punish the tenant, but only punish me. So I don't think this is justified to punish me for the fee because I do nothing wrong. The tenant did something wrong, they purposely get me in trouble so that the city will punish me, and then they will, now it's like I'm being punished and they're not being punished. That's why I say it's not justifiable. You ask me to pay for fee, I refuse it. I refuse 100%. If I have to go to Supreme Court, I will argue in front of the judge Supreme Court because I think this is illegal to put a fine on.
And I'm not sure if you were here when Mr. Intablian spoke about, he gave an example that if you have a tenant that is growing marijuana illegally on your property, the owner is responsible for the violation. So it may seem unfair, but the city is not on the side of the landlord or the tenant. They're just upholding the code. That's all they're doing.
No, they're on the side of the tenant because the tenant used the city to threaten me, to hold me hostage. Because every time they tell me something, they want to raise the rent, they will say, you know what, I'm going to call the city. So is that a threat? That is a threat. If you use the city to threat the landlord.
Not a threat if they have nothing there that's in violation. I would say bring the city on, have them inspect it. In fact, your house is supposed to be inspected by the rental housing inspection program.
Yeah,
So
I did. I'm a member of the.
So then you should be fine. You
No,
should
that's
welcome
what-
an inspection.
Then why the inspector came in and tell me that I have to pay
Because
for
it
sure.
was leaking gas.
No, it wasn't leaking gas. There's
Well,
no
you-
leaking gas. I didn't repair any leak gas. There's no leak.
All right, this is the last opportunity.
Yeah.
We're done at this point, or at least I am.
Mr. I'll have final comments from Mr. Boyd, and I'll let you make a final brief statement, and then we will consider a motion.
What's happening
Hello?
outside?
Oh, go ahead, Mr.
Yes.
Boyd.
I just wish to say one last thing and then.
Hold on, let Mr. Boyd go first, and then I'll let you speak.
To your point, Mr. Gillon, gas may not have been smelled. PG&E came and smelled carbon monoxide is why they turned the water heater off. So the wording from PG&E was they smelled carbon monoxide that had backed up into the garage. That is a danger. They shut off the source of that carbon monoxide, which was the water heater. Going and finding that this is what they do for a living, they are the ones who then stated there's an issue with this water heater. Tied the control knob, zip tied down, so for non-adjustment, as you stated, because of the multiple use of dialing the temperature, broke the heating coupler. That's not how that works. The heating coupler is copper. That will only break over time and physical damage too, not the turning of the dial. Some of us up here are experienced in home repair. Some of us up here, I'm just throwing a broad stroke, hold law degrees. Some of us up here understand exactly what we're speaking of. And I'll conclude with this. As you stated, your words were a former code compliance officer or code inspector, if I heard you right. So then you would know it's not an illegal check on your property. It was a dangerous issue that had transpired that needed to be addressed, and it was addressed by PG&E. And from that, the ball started rolling on source. From that, code compliance comes in and starts the violations that inspector saw. That's where we are. And the reason we're here is your appeal to the dollar amount that you requested. That is it.
I appeal that this is
We're going in circles.
invalid. Yeah, my appeal is that this charge is invalid. And you let me explain. Let me ask you this then, if you can explain to me that a water heater and gas appliance like gas stove and gas furnace, how we produce carbon monoxide? I ask you that if you say that the only way you can produce carbon monoxide is that you burn something other than propane. You can burn paper, you burn styrofoam, aerosol. It will produce that kind of carbon monoxide because.
Mr. Gill, let me just stop you. Just from my purview, I don't have an answer to that question because I'm not an expert. We are not employees of the city. We don't work for code enforcement. I haven't taken one class about what their expertise, right? So all we can talk about tonight are the fees. And again, I'm gonna say this for the last time because we have to move on. You cannot use there's no violations as a reason that the fees and the costs are unjustified. You would have had to contest the actual notice and order. So I think we're going in circles because you're
It's not in
you're
circle
asserting that the
because
fees
you have
and
to
costs are
assign
unjustified.
responsibility. You have to assign responsibility. Because when I opened the water heater up, I found that they use aerosol to spray to create carbon monoxide so that they can call PG to come, and then they roll the thing. The reason why they did that is that before that, I did a lot of repair. I repair 5 times the copper, 1 year repair 5 times the copper turbo. One time, this one, the burner, the whole assembly, and one time the thermostat. So I replaced all that in 1 year, okay? Why is that? Because before, they told me that this water heater, 35 gallons, is too small for their family. I say 5 people, 35 gallons is correct. And so I told the tenant, the main one, I said that, if next time, if they broke again, I'll replace 60 gallons. They heard that, 60 gallons. So I give them that, like, okay, well, in the future, if it broke, I'll replace. He's going to replace 60 gallons because they don't sell 35 gallons anymore in Home Depot. I told him that. And so what happened is keep broken all the time. And so on the day that they broke that, and I say I have to order this one because this one take a long time because it take about 2 weeks to arrive, like maybe 1 week and a half and 2 weeks arrive. And so when I came there, right, and the old inspector, and I tried to call a contractor to get them replace new water heater right away because I say. And so when I opened the water heater up, because you have to drain all the water out to replace this one, you drain all the water out, and I opened everything up, and I found that they spray styrofoam aerosol in there to burn to create a carbon monoxide smell, and then they call PG. And then when I talked to the tenant, why are you doing that? They say, well, it wasn't me, I didn't call, it was somebody else. And so it creates that problem. So the problem, it doesn't, because you can turn like really high volume, it doesn't produce carbon monoxide. The water heater doesn't produce carbon monoxide because it burns propane gas. It doesn't burn paper or wood, right? The only time that I violate the code is that I modify. Because what happened is that what I did is that I pushed the pilot and I light up, right? So it heat up water, but it light it up.
We're done at this point.
Yeah,
You're arguing something that you didn't put an appeal in for. This is the last time we're telling you. Whether or not they took out the thing, you didn't appeal that. We're here to talk about the fees. So you continue to talk about things that we cannot talk to you about. So at this point, I'm going to make a recommendation confirming the total charge of $1,360 for the notice and order on the property known as 6975 Mesa Grande Court, Sacramento, California 95828, APN 04001810070000.
May I? That
Really?
total charge
Oh,
in that paragraph is a little bit off. It should be 1,468.
oh, well, then yes, you should have. Thank you. Stop me. Yes, 1,468.80. Confirming the total charge of 1,000, can I just edit the number, or are you going to make me read the whole thing again? You're going to make me reread the whole thing. Confirming the total charge of 1,468.80 for the notice and order on the property known as 6975 Mesa Grande Court, Sacramento, California 95828, APN number 04001810070000. Thank you for catching, by the way.
I'll second.
Fisher?
Yes.
Taylor? Aye. And Tablian?
Yes.
Boyd?
Aye.
So, Mr. Guillen, we did find in favor of the city, confirming the total charge of $1,468.80. Again, you'll receive notification, written notification in the mail about our decision and any next steps you can take.
I don't know what other next step I can take because I think the city is still responsible because it costs us to have a tenant vacate the house, damage the house, and I cannot sell the house. And right now I lost income,
It says status is closed on this. So I would recommend working, are you the current or are you just filling in for the day?
Just filling in, but we can address this outside.
There we go.
right, thank
Perfect.
you.
He'll
Please
work with you directly right now.
Thank you.
Sorry. Oh.
Items 5 and 6, Inspector Arion Gildersleeve, 4561 10th Avenue. This is Jose Francisco. Please come forward. Thank you. The secretary will swear you in.
I Could I have all parties for items number 5 and 6 for the property located at 4561 10th Avenue? Please raise your right hand and answer the following question. Do you solemnly swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony and evidence that you give at this hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gildersleeve. Please begin.
Good evening. This is agenda item 5 and 6, case number 25-035583. Property owner is Restated Francisco Lee Family Trust. Property address located at 4561 10th Avenue, parcel number 014-0222-039-0000. My name is Ariane Gildersleeve, building inspector for the city of Sacramento. Case opened on September 11, 2025. It's currently closed. On September 23, 2025, I arrived for an initial inspection of a duplex. I met with the tenant who allowed me to inspect the home. I noted violations in the bathroom and the wall heater located in the living room. Photos were taken. I requested a preliminary letter to be sent out. October 30th, 2025, I arrived for a 30-day inspection. I received no response from the property owner. There's no building permits issued. I checked with the tenant to verify if the property owner contacted them or fixed the violations, and the tenant stated nothing has happened. Photos were also taken. I requested a notice and order, which wasn't contested, cloud and title to be sent out, which the fees are being appealed this evening. December 15, 2025, I arrived for a 30-day inspection. The violations remain the same. The property owner hasn't contacted me. Photos were taken. I requested the first monitoring fee to be sent out, which is being appealed this evening. The property owner contacted me in January 2026, indicating that he had traveled out of town during the time frame of the complaint, and his property management team never received the notices. The property owner arranged to have the violations corrected. I met with the tenant March 6, 2026 to inspect the home. The violations didn't require a permit and were repaired. After confirming the completion of the work, I closed the case. The itemized total cost of work, notice and order cost $1,360, $190 for termination fee, title cost $47.50, code technology fee $30.40, monitoring fee of $380, total cost of $2,007.90. The notice of list pendants or cloud was properly recorded at the Sacramento County Assessor's Office on December 11, 2025. Property owner was not contacted prior to the issuing a notice and order. A preliminary letter was sent out September 24, 2025. The notice and order was sent to the property owner address listed on the current title report October 31st, 2025. It was effectively served on October 31st, 2025 by substitute service. The notice and order was not appealed. The appellant has received the information being presented this evening, and staff recommends that the board adopts a decision confirming the total charge of $1,597.50 for invoice number CDD CHC 23450 for notice and order, cloud and title on the property known as 4561 10th Avenue, Sacramento, California 95820, parcel 014-0222-039-0000, and also for the total charge of $410 for invoice number CDD CHC 23817 for the HDB monitoring fee and code technology fee, also on the property of 4561 10th Avenue, Sacramento, California 95820, parcel 014-0222-039-0000. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Francisco, please state your appeal.
Yes. Good evening. I know it's late, so I'll try to be brief. In 2024, this exact same, I found myself here in the same situation to appeal for a rental inspection, and I decided on that time that I better make arrangements that notifications for any inspection be provided to my property manager. And so I thought. That arrangement has been made. So when I was out of the country from September 2nd through January 15th, 2026. So what happened was, the notification, I've been a long time rental inspection, property, because I do own a duplex that's very old. And I do welcome any improvements. Probably I can't do it all at once, but that's why I have a property manager, because I find myself out of town quite a bit. I was out of town during the time of the inspection. The notification was sent to my address. Nobody was there to receive any mail. Neither was my property manager. They didn't receive anything, even though I thought that we've already made arrangements after the 2024 hearing. As a matter of fact, I do recognize Mr. Boyd was in that hearing. And I did say that, the following day that I better make that arrangement. And so, I was a little bit surprised that this is happening all over again. As you can see, I was not aware of any city inspection until the day after I returned, which is January 15th, 2026. Immediately after I got that, I said, what's going on? I checked with the property manager. Did you receive any notice? Can we address this right away? Because I don't want to, but it's already outside the purview of the appeals period. I did double check on February 2nd. I called the city and said, is the property manager's address on the list of contacts? And they said yes. And so so I decided to send an appeals letter to the Appeals and Hearing dated February 2nd, 2026. However, it was returned to me saying that the appeal was invalid because it's over the time period, and all we're appealing right now is the fees. And so I was no longer, and the only thing I can appeal right at this point is the fees. I totally understand the procedures, but it's a little frustrating for me because I feel like, we didn't receive any notification. We acted promptly, and right now, we're receiving this fee, and frankly, I can't afford it. It's there's other things that I'm addressing in that property, that we replaced the heater, as that heater has been replaced. I've been proactive. I went to the other unit and they said, this thing might break down. I replaced the other heater proactively so that this will never happen again. And I'm just, I'm at my wit's end. I just, I don't have any, I'm not making any money from this property at all. And so I just, that's it. And so I called the city again, and I just want to make sure that the city has the correct contact, because I'm willing and able, to abide by what the city finds. But please, if I don't know, if I'm not aware, how could we act? So what I would want is, can you help me out? Can you help me out with this?
Mr. Lee, can I ask, what is the address of the property managers?
Oh. At the time, it was Real Property Management Select 2143 Hurley Way, Suite 103, Sacramento, California.
And because it's public record and it's before us, so this isn't letting a cat out of a bag, would you state the restated Francisco Lee Family Trust address, please?
It's 6409 Driftwood Street, Sacramento.
Thank you. And let me turn to, hold on, my Gildersleeve, Inspector Gildersleeve. What is the address? Let me back up. What is that thing called? The confirmation of delivery. What is on that in regards to the letter going out to the property manager?
I think the original one was for 6409 Driftwood Street.
So I think the question is, within the rental housing inspection program, is the property manager's address listed as the main address, or is it the Driftwood address?
I think at the time it only had one address, because when I spoke to Mr. Francisco back, I believe in February, that's when I myself put the address that he wanted in the system, which I believe that, if I'm not mistaken, would have been the 2143 Hurley Way. And I personally put that in there.
Is there a way to check when that address was added?
It shows property, or added on February 5th, 2026.
My conversation with the city was on February 2nd.
Okay,
But it
This year.
because basically what happens, once I put in the information, then back office has to process that, so there might be a little
delay.
Understood. So what that said, but your contention was that you put in writing the additional address, and what evidence and what can you show us, the board, that you email, handwritten letter, what can you show us that you had that done, and the reception from the city of Sacramento in your request for it adding on the property manager's address?
Oh, I don't have any written evidence from 2024 to produce right now, but all I know is I did call the city.
Okay, let me stop you just.
Prior to.
Let me stop you just one quick second. Inspector, would a phone call suffice from a property owner to add an additional address for notification?
Yes.
Okay, so with that, as you discovered, when you spoke to the inspector to add the property manager's address February of 2026, you added it because it didn't exist prior. So my point, or my question to you is, as you stated in 2024, you called and asked for the additional address for the property manager to be put on. What was the confirmation you received that that was done?
I don't recall what the confirmation is. All the confirmation that I got was prior to me talking to Mr. Gildersleeve that the address is there as a secondary contact.
Wait, I'm sorry, repeat that again?
That the address was there as a secondary contact, because I went through the website and I said, okay, let's take a look at my parcel and see, the rental housing inspection program list of properties. And so I did call and I said, for this particular parcel number, what is the address that's that's registered aside from the restated Francisco Lee Family Trust? There's a secondary address there. I said, for 2143 Hurley Way. And so if there's a secondary address there, I'm a little confused why it was not, at least CC'd to that property, or, there should have been,
To your point, so what you looked up was the county assessor's website for the property address showed both your address, or the trust's address, and the property manager's address on the county assessor's website, correct?
no, I looked for a reference so that I can call. Then I called the city and confirm over the phone.
Then I missed something. What website were you on that you saw both the trust address and the property manager's address that you just stated?
No, the website that I checked, just showed the list of properties listed in the rental housing inspection program. There were no addresses whatsoever listed there. I used that to get a reference number or a assessor's number or what have you, so that I can use to call the city to confirm that that address has been, been there, because, that's what I put into action back in 2024.
Had the property management company received correspondence? Had anything else come to Driftwood before this, or was everything flowing from the city to the property management address at Hurley Way?
Since 2024, no.
The property manager had gotten everything? They received all the documentation and letters and for your properties?
Oh, since for this case?
Since 2024, when you changed it. The city they would send it to the property manager, or were they still sending it to Driftwood?
I did not receive any, since 2024, this was the only time we received some sort of like a
I
notification.
think what he's saying is you would have received renewal notices in the mail for the rental housing inspection program over the last 2 years. Where did those renewal notices go?
Oh, they came to me.
Yeah, so that should have, okay, so can I just, can I ask Mr. Chief Lemos? I have a feeling you've been looking up the history of the property over there. Could you shine some light?
Principal Building Inspector Lothar. In the rental housing, they do have one other address, and it says local contact rep, and it is for 220 Long Iron Court, West Columbia, South Carolina, attached to your rental housing application. In both current housing case and the previous housing case, the only address that you have connected on within your contacts is Driftwood. And then Hurley Way got added to 526 when both notice and orders and monitoring fees were issued at 12/16/25 before it got added to the actual case. So Hurley Way would have never seen any of the information. We rely on what's the title report. Once money gets issued to the property, we pull a title report and all the beneficiaries get added to it. But since you contacted Mr. Gildersleeve to add Hurley Way after the fact that those had been issued, according to what we see here, Hurley Way got added in, I believe I said, February 5th of 26. And all the paperwork that was sent to you was sent in 25.
Correct. I wasn't here.
So we didn't have your Hurley address for your property manager until 26.
Well,
He spoke actually in 2024. He spoke December 27, 2027, he spoke to the tenant protection program and gave them 2143 Hurley Way, Suite 103. So the tenant protection program has a additional address. They have Driftwood, 10th Avenue.
You didn't
Early
speak to the
Way.
rental housing program.
Going to tenant protection program. Unfortunately, our system currently does not share information between it. With the program we're building in the coming months, once one program changes an address or adds an address, everybody will know. Right now, somebody has to actually go through every case and read the notice to find it.
I mean, I thought I acted in good faith. By the way, I don't know what that South Carolina address is. I have no idea what that is. Okay, just for the record, why there's an address in.
I would reach out to the rental housing supervisor and update your contacts. You can come in, fill out new paperwork to make sure that they get updated contact for you, and then you can add your property manager, your local rep on that. Mr. Gildersleeve.
Could it possibly be a previous owner or something?
It could be anybody that has, but it says local rep right next to them. So
Yeah.
I would say update your rental housing and not your tenant protection.
So I think all the solutions have been done. I mean, what Mr. Gildersleeve's recommendation, we finished, the case is closed. You know, you can all see that I acted in good faith and gave the address to but it's the wrong.
Are there any other comments before I make a? No. Okay. No? Okay. So listen, you did make a good faith effort. I do agree with that. So here's the thing. I would make sure that tomorrow, every program that's out there, you have the information, and then to confirm when your tenants get stuff and that you're not hearing, make sure they're talking with the property management company as well and not just letting things go. I mean, I get that's not their responsibility, but this is also your responsibility. So I'm one board member that will make a motion. Your total bill right now is listed at $2,007.90. I'm going to make a motion reducing that by $500. However, this is technically your fault. You did not update it, but I would like to admit you did make a good faith effort. So the city has met their due diligence and obligation. They have followed every rule. So I want to make sure that the city is aware that like they followed it. You just updated the wrong system, which I get, it sucks, and that's why I'm trying to meet you with this. So I'm going to make a recommendation. Oh, no. Oh.
Which charge? Because there's two.
I didn't, the 500, what do you mean? Oh, well, let's make it easy.
Separately.
We'll do them separately, so I'm gonna take it off the first because I can subtract 500 from that one easier than I can the other one. The other one as it would be negative. So for the first one, I'm going to do confirming the total charge of $1,097.50, invoice number CDDCHC23450 for notice and order cloud and title on the property known as 4561 10th Avenue, Sacramento, California 95820, APN number 0140222039000.
I'm sorry, give me the dollar amount again?
$1,097.50.
500.
I subtracted the 5.
Gotcha. Second. Excuse me, second.
Fisher,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
and Tablian,
Yes.
Boyd,
Aye.
I'm going to move on to the second one. Moving on to case the second case. Confirming the total charge of 400, is that okay? You were looking at me.
it's okay.
There's something I'm missing.
Item,
7.
no,
Six.
they were just spread out of order. So item 5 was the 410.
Oh, well, they're listed that way on the thing. Sorry. I apologize. All right. So I just read the other item then. Can you can swap them? Or do I have to read it again? Is that why you're looking at me?
I'll have to ask
Okay. So I am going to read the other one first then, right? I'm going to just start confirming the total charge of $410.40 before, okay. Confirming the total charge of $410.40, invoice number CDDCHC 23817 for HDB monitoring fee and code technology fee on the property known as 4561 10th Avenue, Sacramento, California 95820, APN number 014022203900000.
Second.
Fisher?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
And Tablian?
Yes.
Boyd?
Aye.
Thank you.
Now moving on to the next one. Confirming the total charge of $1,097.50. Invoice number CDDCHC 23450 for notice and order cloud and title on the property known as 4561 10th Avenue, Sacramento, California 95820, APN number 014022203900000.
Second.
Fisher?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
And Tablian?
Yes.
Boyd?
Aye.
So, Mr. Francisco, we did find in favor of the city. However, for item 6, we reduced it from $1,597.50 to $1,097.50, a reduction of $500. You'll receive notification of our decision in the mail and any next steps you can take. And to confirm, it's going to be sent to which address? I just want to make
The
sure.
mailing address that I have is the 6409 Driftwood Street.
Is that where you wanted to be sent, the notification of our decisions this evening to your Driftwood address?
Sure.
Okay.
I need to also find out, do you guys have like payment plans or something like that?
And all of that will be in your paperwork. So I want to make sure you got it. That's why I'm asking.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, please. But for any future notification, are there any other departments that need to know the property manager's address?
RHI, the rental housing, and I think, who can explain that?
Can you talk to him outside after this?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gill.
You know, I don't want this to happen again.
Yeah, no, I understand. Thank you, Inspector.
So if you can stop at Frances out there, she can also give you another document for the payment plan, so you have that ahead of time.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Thank you.
Before we move on to the next one, Mr. Inspector Martinoni, any chance we can do a condensed version of this one?
Absolutely.
This, just to confirm, this person is not here today, right?
they're
So
not.
a condensed version would be great. Thank you.
The secretary will swear you in.
If I could have all parties for items number 7 and 8 for the property located at 3439 23rd Street, please raise your right hand and answer the following question. Do you solemnly swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony and evidence that you give at this hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Martinoni.
Housing and Dangerous Buildings Program Appeal Hearing, report to the Housing Code and Advisory Board. This is agenda item number 7 and 8, case number 25-043, case 25-042313. The property owner is Vincent Lira. The property address is 3439 23rd Street, Sacramento, California, 95822. Parcel number 0130-197-0030000. The case was opened on November 5th, 2025. The current case status is open. On November 13th, 2025, I performed an initial inspection at 10:20 a.m. When I arrived, there was a contractor standing on the front porch and construction material. I informed him that I was there due to a complaint about work without a permit. I checked the Excel permitting system, and there was no permit issued for the work being performed. He stated they were doing an interior remodel. He gave me permission to inspect the interior and exterior of the structure. The main structure is being remodeled, the kitchen, new countertops, sinks, fixtures, one bathroom remodel, vanity sinks, fixtures, new toilet, tile, shower enclosure, the addition of a new bathroom with tile shower enclosure. The rear detached garage is in the process of being turned into an additional dwelling unit. I posted a stop work notice and provided the contractor with my contact information. A Buster preliminary letter was sent and a notice and order was issued. Photos were downloaded into the electronic case file. The notice and order, title, and termination fee is being appealed today. On December 15, 2025, I performed a reinspection at 10:40 a.m. I arrived at the single-family residence due to the present violations. I checked the Excel permitting system, and there had been no submittal for the permit for the work that was being performed. The first housing and dangerous building monitoring fee of $380 was issued for the month of December 2025. Photos were downloaded into the electronic case file. This housing and dangerous building monitoring fee is being appealed today. The notice of less penance or cloud on the property was recorded at the Sacramento County Assessor's Office on December 11th, 2025. The owner was not contacted prior to the issuance of the notice and order. The preliminary letter was sent November 13th, 2025. The notice and order was sent to the property owner's address listed on the current title report, 5960 Southland Park, Sacramento, California, 95822. It was effectively served on November 25th, 2025 by substitute service. The notice and order was not appealed. Staff recommendation is that the board adopts the decision confirming the total charges of $2,007.90 for the notice and order and the work performed by the city to the property known as 3439 23rd Street, Sacramento, California, 95818. APN 0130-197-0030000, invoice CDD CHC2 3500 for the termination fee of $190, the notice and order of $1,360, the title $4750, for a total of $1,597, and invoice CDDCH 23820 for the housing and dangerous building monitoring fee of $380, code technology fee of $30.40 for a total of $410.40. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martinoni. Any questions? If not, I'll call for a motion.
I have a motion.
Yes. Thank you.
But I'm not falling for it this time.
Yes.
You put it also reversed. Confirming the total charge of $410.40 for invoice CDDCH23820 for housing and dangerous building monitoring fee for the property known as 3439 23rd Street, Sacramento, California, 95818, APN number 0130-19700300000.
Second.
Fisher,
Yes.
Taylor,
Aye.
and Tablian.
Yes.
Boyd.
Aye.
I have another motion. Yeah, okay. Confirming the total charge of $1,597 for the notice and order of the work performed in the city of Sacramento, on the property known as 34, I'm sorry, did I say the amount? $1,597 for the city. 50. This doesn't say 50.
It's 440.
Oh, this does. That doesn't. All right. Let me start over. Confirming the total charge of $1,597.50 for the notice and order and work performed by the city on the property known as 3439 23rd Street, Sacramento, California, 95818, APN number 0130-19700300000.
Second.
Fisher,
Yes.
Taylor,
Aye.
and Tablian.
Yes.
Boyd.
Aye.
All right. Item number 10. Inspector Elijah Prock, 4301 Marysville Boulevard. Appellant is Tiffany Rogers. Please come forward.
Tiffany, Ms. Rogers had to leave early, so she wants it read into record, and she did also submit these two photos for your viewing, as well as she would like this to be confirmed. says sheds are only 120 square feet.
All right, thank you. Considering that the appellant is not here, Inspector Proc, you can condense if you would like. We'll look at the picture. The secretary will swear you in.
If I could have all parties for item number 10 for the property located at 4301 Marysville Boulevard, please raise your right hand and answer the following question. Do you solemnly swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony and evidence that you give at this hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Thank you.
Inspector Proc, please begin.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Again, my name is Elijah Prock. I'm a city building inspector for the Housing and Dangerous Buildings. This is for the agenda item number 10. Case number is 25-005987. Property owner is Ingrid Mergard, 2024 Revocable Trust. Property address is 4301 Marysville Boulevard, Sacramento, California, 95838. Parcel number is 2370152-029. Today's date is May 13th, 2026. And this type of report is for the accounting of expenses. This case opened on February 18th, 2025. The current case status, it is open. This case originated from a complaint received on February 18th, 2025, regarding multiple makeshift structures on the property that were unlawfully occupied and served by illegal electrical and plumbing utilities. A site inspection confirmed the presence of multiple transient occupied structures. The owner stated she was allowing unhoused individuals to stay on the property and was advised that the unpermitted structures and associated mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems. Hello? Mechanical, my mic is cutting in and out. Okay, so the owner stated that she was allowing unhoused individuals to stay on the property and was advised that the unpermitted structures and associated mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems violated the Sacramento City Code and required permits for corrective action. Despite notice and opportunity to comply, no corrective action was taken. Re-inspections confirmed the violations remained, with no permit activity or meaningful compliance efforts. Due to the continued blight and attractive nuisance conditions, a notice and order was issued on December 31st, 2025. As of today, the violations remain unresolved, and the property continues to violate Title 8 and 15 of the Sacramento City Code. The current appeal pertains to the delinquent enforcement invoice associated with the notice and order activity. The total costs are $1,725.30. The cloud was properly recorded on the property on February 5th. Prelim letter issued March 27th, 2025. Notice and order was sent to the property owner's address listed on the county assessor's office records December 31st, 2025, and it was effectively served by conspicuous posting of the notice on the front of the property and by simultaneous mailing by both certified mail, return receipt requested, and first-class mail, which was not returned. The notice and order was not appealed. Staff recommends that the board adopts a decision confirming a total charge of $1,725.30 for the notice and order on the property known as 4301 Marysville Boulevard, Sacramento, California, 95838. Parcel number 2370152-029. Please see the documents attached.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? If not, I'll call for a motion.
Not a question, but I'll just add to the record that the documents that were provided, whether they were 120 square feet or not, is a obviously he's saying that this is a habitable structure, not a storage unit. So it doesn't matter if it's 120 square feet or 10 square feet. It can't have electrical or plumbing, right? Just stated.
That would be correct.
All right, so now if somebody would like to, I feel like I hogged, but go ahead.
I would like to make a motion confirming the total charge of $1,725.30 for the notice and order on the property known as 4301 Marysville Boulevard in Sacramento, California, 95838, APN 2370152 0290000.
I'll second.
Fisher?
Yes.
Taylor?
Aye.
And Tablian?
Yes.
Boyd?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Park. We're now moving to item 11, uncontested. The secretary will read this in.
The following lines shall be heard as blanket items. City staff recommends that the board adopt a decision confirming the total charge noted by each agenda line for the expenses incurred by the city in the enforcement of the provisions of the Housing Code and/or Dangerous Building Code with respect to the property known by the physical address and/or parcel number, APN, as noted within agenda line for items number 11, lines 1 through 2, lines 4 through 145, and lines 147 through 188.
So move.
Second.
You second? Okay. Fisher?
Yes.
Taylor?
Aye.
And Tablian?
Yes.
Boyd?
Aye.
Thank you.
Discussion calendar? No? Board comments, ideas, and questions?
Yes. And I forgot what my question was going to be. Give me 1 second. If somebody else has a question, please go ahead.
I'd like to officially welcome Principal Inspector Lothar to his new position. Oh, do we have, was that, or no, that's next on the list. I don't know who's in the audience. Do we have public comment?
Public comment? No? Just an observer? Okay. All right, Mr. Boyd, question? All right. And we also welcome Ms. Bunting, who had to leave early, now our 5th board member. All right, meeting adjourned.
Thank you for closing the doors, Peter. Sorry about that. It was loud, yeah. I figured you were closer than that.